everyone. I'm Elaine Quijano. It's good to be with you. Thanks for joining us. Calls for police reform in the United States are continuing after another black man was killed by police, this time in Atlanta, Georgia. Body camera footage shows the encounter between officers and Rayshard Brooks on Friday evening. You can see officers approach Brooks' car after he fell asleep in a Wendy's drive-thru. Brooks failed a field sobriety test a short time later. Officers tried to arrest him, and there was a struggle. Brooks was able to get a hold of one of the officer's tasers. Autopsy results show he was shot twice in the back. The medical examiner ruled Brooks' death a homicide, and prosecutors are considering criminal charges against the officer who shot him. The shooting set off a weekend of protests in Atlanta. It also led to the resignation of Police Chief Erika Shields. At the White House today, President Trump called Brooks' death a terrible situation and said he has studied the case closely. There is also another crisis in this country that shows no signs of slowing down. 14 states have seen a spike in coronavirus hospitalizations over the last 2 weeks, and 19 states are reporting increases in new daily cases for that same time period. One of those states is Oklahoma. President Trump is set to hold a campaign rally in Tulsa on Saturday. That city's health director is urging the president to postpone his event because of a spike in coronavirus cases. Earlier, Mr. Trump was asked about the potential health concerns associated with holding a large rally.
You tweeted that you believed that you were being COVID shamed because of your decision to go ahead with the Tulsa rally on Saturday night. The director of the health department in the county and in the city has encouraged you to postpone that, saying they still think that they've got too big a COVID problem for you to pull off a rally like that. Your thoughts on it?
Well, Oklahoma's done very well. I just spoke to the governor. He's very excited about it. Governor Stitt, who's done a terrific job. Mike, I think you can maybe speak to this. He's done a great job. Oklahoma's at a very low number. They've done really fantastic work. They have a pretty new, magnificent arena, as you probably have heard. And we're getting exact numbers out, but we're either close to or over 1 million people wanting to go. We have a 22,000-seat arena, but I think we're going to also take the convention hall next door, and that's going to hold 40,000. So we'll have 22,000 plus 40,000, which would mean that we'll have over 900,000 people that won't be able to go, but hopefully they'll be watching. But it's an amazing. Nobody's ever heard of numbers like this. I think we're going to have a great time.
Skyler Henry joins me now from the White House. Skyler, thanks for being with us. The president is expected to sign an executive order on police reform at the White House tomorrow. Whom did he consult, and what might be in that order?
Well, hey, Elaine, I think the president has made mention of this in the past week or so, that he is interested in creating police reform to address issues like what we've seen over the last few weeks or so, sparking off with that incident with George Floyd and obviously into that incident that happened in Atlanta over the weekend. But what the president has said is that he wants to include either social workers or mental health workers in pilot programs to go along with law enforcement to try and de-escalate some of these situations that we've seen. Obviously, we've seen body camera video and other video, but whether it be posted on social media or otherwise, where there have been incidents that have been in between law enforcement and people that they may be arresting, and then it escalates from there. And so the president has said that it is important to try to create some sort of relationship with the person that may be arrested or what have you, that they can possibly de-escalate that situation to some regard. He also said during a roundtable last week in Texas that he was looking to try to create a national standard of some sort in terms of for police departments across the country to follow when it comes to the appropriate use of force. Now, we know that the White House has met with Senate Republicans in terms of trying to hear what they are coming up with in terms of their police reform. But as far as what remains to be seen in terms of what the White House is putting together in terms of executive orders, the president is scheduled to have an announcement tomorrow in the Rose Garden on that front. It remains to be seen what is actually specified in that order, though, Elaine.
Well, Skyler, as you know, the Senate will hold a hearing on police use of force on Tuesday. Senate Republicans will release their own legislation soon, and the House could vote on its Justice in Policing Act as soon as next week. Has the White House actually weighed in on either proposal?
Well, not officially. We have seen several members of the Trump administration, as I said, meet with some Senate Republicans just to try to iron out some of the details that they may be coming forward with in terms of their own police reform, that being the president's son-in-law and advisor, Jared Kushner, as well as his chief of staff, Mark Meadows, meeting with Tim Scott last week. In that conversation, they said that there were still some things that needed to be ironed out in terms of specifics in that particular piece of legislation that was being brought forward, but they did say that there was some relative progress being made in that area. Now, we've seen Tim Scott come out to say that he did want to see things such as usage of body cameras, and also making sure that the thing of no-knock warrants is a thing of the past, as well as potentially considering banning chokeholds and things of that nature. And so what happens now is, where do Senate Republicans fall when it comes to things like police immunity? That's a big topic that's being discussed right now. Obviously, a lot of Republicans, particularly the White House, say that that is a non-starter. And so there's still a lot of details that need to be ironed out in terms of what specifically Senate Republicans come up with. But as you mentioned, House Democrats say that they are ready to go with their piece of legislation. But again, what matters most here, I think, is what the president has to say when it comes to his executive order.
On another topic, Skyler, despite an increase in reported coronavirus cases in Oklahoma, the president is set to hold his first rally since the start of the outbreak in Tulsa on Saturday. How is the Trump campaign addressing health concerns related to that event?
Well, as you mentioned earlier, this is one of those things that I think is alarming some of the health officials, particularly in Oklahoma, in Tulsa, as they're seeing a spike of COVID cases. We heard the director of the health department say that he wishes the Trump campaign postponed this rally, perhaps until they can find more safe measures in order to make this rally happen safely. But from the Trump campaign, they say that they are moving forward with this, and they're taking measures in order to not only protect themselves. They are asking for ticket holders to sign a waiver saying that if you attend this rally, you cannot sue the Trump campaign. So the million or so people that the president said have signed up looking to try to get tickets for this rally, they will have to consider signing that waiver if they choose to attend that rally. But as for the Trump campaign itself, they did say that they will be providing things like face masks and hand sanitizer, and that they will be doing temperature checks at this rally, as well as having two venues for this rally as well. That's something unprecedented that we haven't seen in a while. So the Trump campaign is certainly trying to move forward, trying to do so safely. But I think you and I both know that the president is trying to win re-election here, and that starts with getting back on the campaign trail. And so the president is moving forward with trying to make sure that he is in front of the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who will vote for him.
Finally, Skyler, the rally was originally scheduled for Friday, but the president was sharply criticized over that date, known as Juneteenth, and ended up moving it to Saturday. What more do we know about that decision, and how unusual is it for the president to acknowledge and adjust because of criticism?
Well, for the president, he made that announcement over the weekend after speaking to some of the people who he deems close to, in terms of just how significant it was that the president was even considering holding this rally on June 19th. I think there was a lot of pushback, not only from people of the opposite party, but as well as just the general public, in terms of not acknowledging the sensitivity of the day that is Juneteenth. Of course, that is the day that the country recognizes as the end of slavery. And just given the fact of what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma 99 years ago, when you speak of the incident on Black Wall Street, or the massacre there in Tulsa, I think there were a lot of things that people were saying didn't really sit well with them in terms of the president considering having that rally there. We saw the DNC put out a statement last week saying that there are still nodes to the Confederate South throughout the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and having that rally there caters to that in some respects. And so the president and his team did decide to go ahead and push that to the next day. Now, as we just talked about, hundreds of thousands, if not a million people or so, will be out there. So there will still be many people out there supporting the president, but I think the president just took a note from some of his advisors, perhaps, to say, let's just push this to the next day and try to make the best of the situation here.
Skyler Henry at the White House for us. Skyler, great to have you as always. Thank you.
Thanks, Elaine.